The phone rang just as I was setting the kettle on the stove. I almost didn't pick it up. It was one of those bitter North Dakota evenings, the kind that made the air sting when you breathed. Snow tapped against the kitchen window, the wind howling low across the frozen plains. I'd spent most of the day fixing the loose boards on the porch, trying to keep myself busy. That's what you do when you live alone at 67, you keep fixing things so you don't fall apart yourself. When I finally reached for the phone, I didn't expect her voice. "Henry," Lydia said, her tone flat, emotionless, every syllable coated in that quiet disdain I'd come to recognize too well. "It's Michael. He's at the hospital. County General. They say it's an accident. You can come if you want." She hung up before I could even ask what happened. I stood there, staring at the receiver, feeling the air drain out of the room. My hands began to tremble. For a second, I thought maybe I'd misheard her. Maybe she said, "He's fine," or "It's minor," but those words never came. Just that cold, empty sentence. My son. My only son. I didn't even put on a heavy coat. I grabbed my truck keys and bolted into the storm. The roads were half buried in snow, the sky a swirling blur of white and gray. My tires slid more than once, but I didn't care. My chest hurt from the cold, from the panic. Every second felt like it might be the one that decided whether I saw my boy alive again or not. 40 minutes later, I pulled into the parking lot of Riverside County General Hospital, headlights bouncing off the snowdrifts piled against the walls. The automatic doors opened with a hiss, releasing a blast of sterile warmth that hit me like a wave. That hospital smell, antiseptic, and fear. I rushed to the front desk. "Michael Collins," I gasped. "My son, they called. He was brought in tonight." The nurse typed something, frowning at her monitor. "Room 312, she said at last. "ICU wing. Down that hall, second right, past the nurse's station." I didn't even thank her. I just ran. The hallway seemed endless. My boots clacked against the linoleum floor, echoing off the walls. The lights above flickered occasionally, throwing flashes of brightness that only made the shadows deeper. Every few steps, I had to swallow hard just to keep breathing. 312. That number was the only thing in my mind. As I passed 308, I slowed down just long enough to press a hand against the wall and catch my breath. My heart was pounding so hard, it felt like a hammer inside my chest. "Almost there," I told myself. "Almost there, son." The memories started to come, then memories I hadn't asked for. Michael at 5 years old, running through the backyard with a toy airplane, laughing so hard he could barely breathe. Michael at 16, yelling that he didn't need me to drive him anywhere anymore. Michael at 30, introducing me to Lydia for the first time, her handshake cold and her smile too perfect. It had been years since we'd been close. After my wife died, it was just the two of us. I worked, I saved, I tried to make sure he'd have a better life than I ever did. But somewhere along the way, he stopped calling, stopped coming by. Lydia didn't like my old-fashioned ways. That's what she said. And I didn't argue. I thought maybe time would fix it. Now time had run out. 310. 311. My throat tightened. I could see 312 at the end of the hall. I was only steps away. That's when it happened. A firm hand grabbed my arm and yanked me sideways with surprising strength. Before I could even speak, another hand covered my mouth. I turned, startled, ready to defend myself, and found myself staring into the eyes of a woman in a nurse's uniform. "Mr. Collins," she whispered, her voice urgent but calm. "Hide. Now, please." Her eyes dark, serious, filled with something I couldn't name, pinned me in place. I froze. "Hide?" I managed to whisper back. "Why? What's—" "Trust me," she interrupted, glancing toward the end of the corridor. "Don't go into that room. Not yet. Just wait and listen." Before I could ask another question, she guided me toward the half-open door of room 311, the one right beside my son's. Her grip was strong, steady. She pushed me gently inside and whispered, "Stay quiet. You'll understand soon." Then she was gone. The room was dark, except for the faint glow of the hallway light cutting through the blinds. I stood there, pressed against the wall, breathing hard. The smell of disinfectant burned my throat. My pulse pounded in my ears. It didn't make sense. None of it made sense. Why would a nurse stop me from seeing my son? Why would she look so serious, almost frightened? I peeked through the narrow crack of the door, and that's when I heard voices, two of them, approaching from the far end of the hall. One was Lydia's, soft and sharp all at once. The other, deeper, smoother, a man's voice I didn't recognize. They stopped right outside room 312. Lydia's laugh floated through the air, cold and humorless. "The old man should be here soon," she said, "but the guards will delay him long enough. We have time." Old man. She meant me. My stomach dropped. The man replied, "Good. Let's go over it again, the signatures, the transfers. Everything has to be in motion before he wakes up." I pressed my ear to the door, the blood roaring in my head. I didn't dare move. And somewhere deep inside, I already knew whatever they were about to say next would change my life forever. I held my breath and pressed closer to the thin strip of light bleeding through the door crack. Their voices were just a few feet away, Lydia's sharp tone and a man's smoother one, calm and practiced like someone who had done this before. "Are you sure no one will see us here?" the man asked, his voice low, confident. Lydia chuckled softly. "That sound I used to mistake for charm." "Relax, Alan. The old man is probably still stuck at the front desk, signing visitor forms. They always make a scene when someone wants to get into the ICU at night. We have plenty of time." Alan. The name clicked somewhere in my mind. Alan Hurst, a lawyer. I'd heard it before when Michael mentioned him once, years ago, during the company's setup. He was supposed to handle their business contracts. "Good," Alan said. "Then we'll review the paperwork again. The house deed transfer must be signed before morning. Once the notary receives it, the property will automatically fall to you as next of kin if he doesn't wake up." My heart stopped. The house deed. They were talking about my home, the one I built with my own hands 35 years ago. I gave it to Michael 5 years back, after I retired, so he could have a fresh start. I wanted him to have something solid, something built from sweat and love. Now I could barely stand. "If anyone asks," Alan continued, "you say Michael signed it last week. He was just waiting for me to file it." Lydia's voice softened, almost purring. "And if he wakes up?" Alan paused. "If he wakes up, he won't remember much. The doctors said there's a chance of cognitive damage after that collapse. You can use that. He'll believe you." A bitter taste filled my mouth. I clenched my fists to keep from bursting through the door. My son, my only son, lying unconscious just feet away, while these vultures planned his life, his future, his death. But then came the words that froze me completely. "I've been adding small doses for months," Lydia whispered, her tone casual, almost bored. "At first, just enough to make him weak, dizzy, then more. The doctors called it stress. You were right, it was the perfect cover." Alan made a faint sound, maybe a smirk. "And here?" "Oh, here it's easier," Lydia said. "No one questions the wife when she adjusts the IV or brings him tea. I even smiled at the nurse when she thanked me for being so attentive." She laughed quietly. "I'll add a few more drops tonight, 2 or 3 days maybe, and his heart will give out. It'll look natural. A tragedy, sure, but a believable one. Then we'll have everything, the company, the house, the accounts, finally free. Finally free." The words echoed in my skull. I stumbled backward in the dark room, covering my mouth with both hands to keep from crying out. My body trembled so violently I thought my knees would give way. My son wasn't dying from an accident. He was being murdered. By the woman he trusted. By the woman I welcomed into my family. I could hear Alan shuffling papers, calm as ever. "Once it's done, Lydia, remember to act devastated. People expect tears. Keep the ring on your finger for at least 6 months before moving anything to your name. Don't be sloppy." "Don't worry," she said, almost proudly. "I've practiced this before." Practiced. That one word turned my blood to ice. Had she done this to someone else? The air in the room grew heavier, thicker. My mind raced every small moment I dismissed, every strange look, every time Michael seemed weaker, thinner, paler over the past year. The mornings when he called and said, "Dad, I don't know what's wrong. I just feel tired all the time." And I'd told him to rest, to eat better, to listen to his wife. God help me. I told him to trust her. My heart felt like it was splitting in two. Lydia's voice came again, closer this time. And the old man? Alan hesitated. What about him? She exhaled through her nose, impatient. Can he claim anything? The accounts? The property? Anything that would cause trouble later? Paper rustled again. Legally, no, Alan said after a moment. Everything is in Michael's name. Nothing ties back to his father. He's just the next of kin. Nothing more. Once Michael's gone, he'll have no claim to a single cent. He's not even listed as a co-owner. In the eyes of the law, the father is irrelevant. Irrelevant. That word hit harder than anything else. I had worked my whole life for that home, for that boy. I gave him everything. And now I was a ghost in my own story, a bystander to my son's murder. Their footsteps began to fade. Lydia laughed softly again. Perfect. Then let's finish it tonight. I'll make sure he never wakes up. The sound of their shoes echoed away down the hallway, leaving only the hum of the lights and my heartbeat thundering in my ears. I sank to the floor of that dark, empty room, my hands shaking uncontrollably. I had no proof, no witnesses, just my word against hers. But one thing was certain, I wasn't leaving this hospital without a fight. Not tonight. Not ever. I don't know how long I sat there on that cold hospital floor, my back pressed against the wall, my palms still over my mouth, afraid that even the sound of breathing might betray me. The echo of Lydia's words still rang in my ears. 2 or 3 more days, and his heart will give out. I had to move. I had to do something. But what? If I stormed into that hallway, they'd call me crazy. If I called the police without proof, they'd say grief had made me delusional. Then, as if the universe answered my silent plea, the door creaked open. The same nurse slipped in quietly and closed it behind her. Her eyes darted to the corners of the room before she turned the small lamp on the counter. A soft yellow light filled the space. "Mr. Collins," she whispered, kneeling beside me. "It's okay. You can breathe now." I looked up at her, her dark hair pulled back tightly, her face lined with exhaustion but glowing with something fierce, courage. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice hoarse. "Elena Rivera," she said, showing me her badge. "Registered nurse. I've been taking care of your son for the last 3 weeks." "Then you knew?" My voice cracked. "You knew something was wrong?" She nodded, eyes glistening. "I suspected it. The test results didn't make sense. Every time he came for a follow-up, his blood work showed signs of internal bleeding. But the doctors thought it was diet, stress, exhaustion. I knew better." She hesitated, and for the first time her calm wavered. "My brother died the same way 5 years ago," she whispered. "His wife poisoned him slowly with anticoagulants warfarin mixed into his food. By the time we figured it out, it was too late. He was gone." Her voice trembled on those last 2 words, and I saw the pain she'd been carrying, the kind only someone who's lived through loss could understand. "I started watching your son closely," she continued. "Every time his wife came in, his condition worsened the next day. She was too calm, too polite. She never asked about his progress, only about how long he'd be kept here, or what paperwork would be needed if he couldn't manage his business again." I swallowed hard, anger rising in my chest. "She's been poisoning him, hasn't she?" "Yes," Elena said firmly. "And tonight, she confirmed it. I recorded her conversation with the lawyer." She pulled out her phone, showing me the recording app still running. The red waveform moved steadily across the screen. "I got every word," she said. "The talk about the pills, the IV, the inheritance, everything. She's going to prison, Mr. Collins, I promise you." I stared at that small screen like it was the last light in the world. You risked your job to do this?" Elena smiled faintly. "I couldn't stay quiet. I've seen this before. And when I saw you running through the corridor earlier the way you looked, I knew I couldn't let you walk into that room blind. She would have fooled you like she's fooled everyone else." Tears burned behind my eyes, but I blinked them back. "How do we stop her?" She straightened, her voice sharpening into purpose. "Dr. Patel is testing your son's IV bag right now. If he finds any trace of warfarin, we'll have physical proof. We'll call the police immediately. But we need more. We have to make sure she doesn't destroy evidence before they arrive. I nodded, my breathing quickening again. What do you want me to do? Act normal, she said. Go into your son's room. Pretend you know nothing. Talk to her. Cry if you have to. Be the father she expects to see. Desperate, confused, harmless. I'll contact hospital security and make sure she's being watched. Every movement, every second. Won't she notice? She won't. She's overconfident. People like her always are. I tried to stand, but my legs were still trembling. Elena grabbed my hands, steadying me. Her grip was firm, grounding. One more thing, she said, lowering her voice. If your son wakes up, don't tell him what you know not yet. He's weak, and she's poisoned more than his body. She's poisoned his trust, too. He might defend her if he doesn't see the evidence himself. We can't risk that. I nodded, understanding even though it tore at my heart. The thought that Michael might not believe me, might still believe her, was almost too much to bear. Elena gave my shoulder a reassuring squeeze. He's going to make it, Mr. Collins. But we have to be smart. This woman knows how to play innocent, and she's been getting away with it for years. Tonight, that ends. She walked to the door and peeked outside, then looked back at me. Go now, she whispered. Be the father she underestimates. I took one deep breath, the kind that shakes your ribs. I wasn't a detective. I wasn't a soldier. I was just an old man with calloused hands and a broken heart. But at that moment, standing in that hospital hallway, I felt something awaken in me, something primal, ancient. The same instinct that made me hold Michael's hand when he took his first steps. The same instinct that made me run through a blizzard tonight without thinking twice. I stepped toward room 312, the light spilling through the crack in the door. Time to face the monster wearing my daughter-in-law's smile. When I pushed open the door to room 312, the smell of antiseptic hit me. First, sharp, clean, unforgiving. Machines hummed softly around the bed where my son lay, pale as snow, his chest rising and falling beneath the thin hospital blanket. 1,000 tiny wires and tubes connected him to life. I froze in the doorway. For a moment, I forgot to breathe. Then I saw her. Lydia sat beside him, head bowed, hands folded neatly over his. She looked up when she heard the door, and her expression changed with practiced precision from boredom to shock, then to concern. Henry, she whispered, standing as if she'd been waiting for me all night. You're here. Thank God. Her voice cracked perfectly on the last word. Not too much, not too little, just enough to sound real. I might have believed her once. I forced a weary smile. The nurse called me, said I should come. Her brows furrowed just slightly, the first sign she was unsure. The nurse? She echoed. Oh, right, that must have been Elena. She's very attentive. She moved toward me, arms half open as if to hug me, but I didn't move. I just nodded and walked past her to my son's bed. His skin was cold when I touched it. I stroked his hand gently, the same hand that once reached up to grab mine when he was small. He's sleeping, Lydia said softly. They said he might wake up soon, but there's a chance of brain damage. I looked at her, letting my eyes fill with fear she would think I believed every word. Brain damage? She sighed, lowering her gaze, her voice dripping with fake sorrow. Yes. The doctor said the collapse was sudden. He might never be the same again. I clenched my jaw to stop the tremor in my voice. He'll come back to me. He has to. She tilted her head, a sympathetic gesture rehearsed 1,000 times. Of course, we can only pray. Silence stretched between us. The only sounds were the steady beep of the heart monitor and the faint hiss of oxygen. I turned toward her, letting my shoulders sag, my face heavy with defeat. Lydia, I began, making my voice small, apologetic. I owe you an apology. Her eyes flickered confusion, curiosity, then calculation. An apology? Yes, I said, taking a shaky breath. I've been unfair to you. I didn't give you a chance. I judged you from the start, and you didn't deserve that. I thought you were taking him away from me. She blinked, her posture easing. Henry, that's not... Let me finish, please, I said softly. All these years, you've been by his side, taking care of him, managing the house, the business. You've done so much. I see that now. Her lips curved into a small smile, controlled, almost triumphant. She was buying it. I just want us to start over, I continued, leaning closer. When Michael wakes up, I don't want him to see two people who can't stand each other. I want him to see a family. I want peace. You've done more for him than I could ever thank you for. Her smile widened, bright enough to blind someone who didn't know the truth. That means a lot, Henry, she said softly. I know you never liked me, but I always respected you. Inside, my stomach twisted. I forced myself to take her hand, to let her feel the trembling of a man she thought was broken. If he makes it through this, I'll help both of you. Financially, I mean. I have some savings tucked away. It's not much, but it could help you move to a better house. Maybe one with a garden, like you always wanted. The gleam that flashed in her eyes at that moment was pure, unmistakable greed. She masked it quickly, but I saw it. I saw her true face flicker beneath that polished veneer. That's very generous, she said, her tone syrupy sweet. But there's no need. Michael and I are comfortable. I insist, I said softly. It's the least I can do after how I treated you. Besides, if something happens to me, everything I have will go to him and to you, of course. Her mask slipped just enough for satisfaction to show. Her pupils dilated slightly, like a predator scenting blood. She nodded, smiling faintly. You're a good man, Henry. I'm sorry if I ever made you feel otherwise. I swallowed hard, feeling bile rise in my throat. We all make mistakes. She glanced at the clock. I'll go get some coffee. Would you like something? Tea? No, thank you, I said. I'll stay here with him. She nodded, smoothing her coat as she stood. Call me if he stirs. I'll be right back. As soon as the door closed, my knees nearly gave out. I gripped the edge of the bed, breathing hard. Then a soft knock came from the door. Elena slipped in, her movements quiet and precise. She had a clipboard in one hand and a determined look in her eyes. She's going for coffee, I whispered. I know, Elena said. We've been watching her. Dr. Patel just confirmed it, traces of warfarin in the IV. My heart skipped. So it's true? Yes, she said. And we have her on camera adjusting the bag earlier. The police are on their way. 20 minutes at most. I nodded, gripping the chair to steady myself. I'll keep her here if she comes back before they arrive. Elena placed a hand on my shoulder. You're doing great, Mr. Collins. Just a little longer. Don't let her suspect anything. I looked down at my son, my boy, and brushed his hair from his forehead. His breathing was shallow but steady. She's not getting away with this, I whispered. Not after what she's done. Elena nodded, her expression resolute. No, she won't. But we need you to stay calm. You're the key to keeping her here. As she slipped out again, I took one more deep breath. The next time that door opened, the act would have to be perfect. The next time I looked into her eyes, she'd believe I was nothing but a frail, grieving old man. And that would be her final mistake. The clock on the wall ticked louder than it should have. Every second stretched, slow and unbearable. I could hear the soft rhythm of Michael's heart monitor, steady but fragile, each beep, like a reminder that he was still here, still fighting. The door handle turned. I sat up straight, my expression calm, my eyes red enough from real exhaustion to play the part. Lydia stepped back into the room, holding 2 cups of coffee. Her heels clicked softly on the tile floor. Still awake? She asked gently. You should rest a bit, Henry. You've had a long night. I smiled weakly. I couldn't. I keep thinking he'll open his eyes any minute. She set 1 cup beside me on the table. Here, it's decaf. Thought you might need something warm. The scent of it made my stomach twist. How many times had she done this, offered him something warm, something deadly? I wrapped my hands around the cup, pretending to sip. Thank you, Lydia. You're kind. She smiled faintly and sat down again beside Michael's bed, crossing her legs. I just wish I'd made him slow down sooner. He worked too hard, you know. He never listened. Her voice cracked with the perfect imitation of heartbreak. I almost laughed, but instead, I nodded. He's a good man, like his mother. At that, she looked up, her face tightening for just a second. Yes, she was lovely, she said quickly. I'm sure she'd be proud of him. Of us. She was lying again. Every word, every breath was a lie. I took another fake sip, keeping my voice soft, broken. Do you think he'll remember any of this when he wakes up? Her eyes flicked toward the monitor, then back to me. If he wakes up, she said quietly. My grip on the coffee cup tightened so hard I thought the paper might tear. I forced a trembling smile. You mustn't say that. You've taken such good care of him. He'll come back to you. You'll see. She gave me a strange look, suspicious for the briefest moment, then nodded. Yes, of course. Minutes crawled by. She pulled out her phone, scrolling casually through messages. I tried to act distracted, glancing now and then at the hallway. My heart was pounding. Every few seconds, I checked the door, praying for that nurse, for anyone to appear. Then, faintly at first, I heard it. Hurried footsteps. Voices. The metallic squeak of wheels. Lydia looked up sharply. What's that noise? I shrugged, feigning confusion. Maybe another emergency. But I knew. The door burst open. 2 police officers stepped inside, followed by Detective Grant, Nurse Elena, and Dr. Patel. Behind them, another officer carried a camera bag. Lydia jumped to her feet so quickly, the chair clattered to the floor. What? What's going on? She demanded. Detective Grant held up a badge. Lydia Collins, I'm Detective Samuel Grant with the North Dakota State Police. We need you to come with us for questioning. Her face paled. Questioning? About what? Dr. Patel stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. About your husband's condition, Mrs. Collins. The toxicology results are back. We found warfarin in his IV solution in amounts that were not prescribed. Someone added it intentionally. Her jaw dropped open. That's ridiculous! You must be mistaken. Elena's voice came next, quiet but unwavering. We have security footage of you entering this room alone 3 separate times and tampering with the IV line. Lydia blinked rapidly, panic flickering in her eyes. That's impossible! I was adjusting his blanket. I wanted to help. Detective Grant cut her off, holding up a small device, Elena's phone. And we also have a full audio recording of your conversation earlier tonight. You mentioned giving him crushed pills, increasing doses, and planning to finish the job here at the hospital. Your lawyer, Alan Hurst, is already in custody. He's confessed. Lydia staggered back, her lips parting soundlessly. No, she whispered. You can't. That's not what I meant. I was talking about supplements. Grant's tone didn't change. You also discussed transferring property, bank accounts, and falsifying signatures. We have it all on record. Her eyes darted around the room, to me, to Elena, to the officers. Her mask was crumbling fast. And then she saw me, really saw me standing there calm and steady, the fool no longer. You, she hissed, pointing a trembling finger. You did this. You old bastard. You set me up. I met her gaze, my voice low, steady. No, Lydia, you did this to yourself. Her face twisted into something monstrous. He'll never believe you, she shouted. When he wakes up, he'll think you're jealous, crazy, trying to ruin us. He loves me. I took one step closer, my eyes locked on hers. He'll believe the truth. He'll believe the nurse who saved his life, the doctor who found the poison, the police who caught you. And when he looks back, he'll remember every cup of tea, every glass of juice, every lie. Her lips trembled. You think you've won? I don't need to win, I said softly. I just need my son alive. Detective Grant motioned to the officers. Mrs. Collins, you are under arrest for attempted murder and fraud. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. The click of the handcuffs echoed through the sterile room. Lydia struggled, shouting that it was all a mistake, that she was innocent. But the more she screamed, the smaller she looked. When they pulled her toward the door, she turned one last time, eyes blazing. You'll regret this, she spat. You'll both regret it. I didn't answer. I just looked at my son, still breathing, still here, and whispered a prayer of gratitude, so quiet no one else could hear it. The officers led her away, her heels scraping the floor. The door shut behind them. Silence fell, heavy and unreal. Elena exhaled slowly and looked at me. It's over, Mr. Collins. We got her. I nodded, tears blurring my vision. Thank you. You saved him. You saved my boy. Dr. Patel adjusted the IV and turned toward me. Now, we fight for his recovery. He's strong, Mr. Collins. He has a chance, a very good one. I sank into the chair beside Michael's bed, my hands trembling as I took his cold fingers in mine. Hang on, son, I whispered. The nightmare's over. You're safe now. She can't touch you anymore. Elena placed a hand on my shoulder, her voice soft but firm. You were braver than you think. You kept your head when it mattered most. I smiled weakly. No, I just did what any father would do. Outside the window, dawn was breaking. The storm had passed. But inside that hospital room, I knew the real battle, the fight for my son's life, was just beginning. The hours after they took Lydia away were the longest of my life. The adrenaline that had kept me standing vanished, leaving only exhaustion, the kind that seeps into your bones. I sat beside Michael's bed, my hands wrapped around his, listening to the soft rhythm of the monitors. Every sound mattered now. Every beep meant he was still here, still fighting. Dr. Patel and his team moved quickly, almost silently. They replaced the IV bag, attached fresh lines, and brought in trays of equipment I didn't understand. He explained everything patiently, his calm voice a lifeline in the chaos. The poison she used, warfarin, is a blood thinner, he said, checking Michael's pulse. It builds up in the system, causes internal bleeding, weakness, sometimes cardiac arrest if untreated. But we caught it in time. We're countering it with high doses of vitamin K and plasma transfusions to restore clotting. I nodded, trying to process every word. Will he survive? Dr. Patel met my eyes, his expression measured but not hopeless. He's young and strong. The odds are on his side, but the next 24 hours are critical. I leaned back, my throat tightening. The words, next 24 hours, echoed in my mind like a drum. Elena stayed with us long after her shift ended. She moved around the room quietly, adjusting monitors, making notes, occasionally resting a comforting hand on my shoulder. She didn't have to say anything, her presence alone was enough. When the night nurse offered to bring me a blanket, I refused. I'm not leaving him, I said. Not even for a minute. I watched the snow falling outside the window, flakes drifting past the glow of the parking lot lights. The storm had calmed, but my mind hadn't. Every few minutes, I caught myself glancing toward the door, half expecting Lydia to come striding back in with that same false smile. Even though I knew she was in police custody, it was hard to believe she was truly gone. Around 2 a.m., Dr. Patel came in again. His levels are stabilizing, he said quietly. That's a good sign. Stabilizing? I repeated, as if the word might disappear if I didn't hold on to it. He nodded. His body is responding to treatment, but he's still weak. We'll keep monitoring him closely. I sat there long after the doctor left, staring at my son's pale face. Memories flickered through my head: the day he graduated, the time he helped me build the shed out back, the morning he told me he was getting married. I remembered how proud I'd been, how much I'd wanted him to be happy. I'm sorry, I whispered, my voice shaking. I should have seen it. I should have known what she was doing. For a long while, the only answer was the hum of the machines. Then a small movement, barely a twitch at first, but enough to make me sit bolt upright. His fingers shifted beneath mine, slowly, weakly. Michael, I said, leaning close. Son, can you hear me? Nothing. Just the steady beep of the heart monitor. But then his hand squeezed mine, faint, trembling, but real. Elena, I called out, my voice cracking. Elena! He moved. She rushed in, followed by Dr. Patel and another nurse. They surrounded the bed, checking his vitals, his pupils, his breathing. Michael, Dr. Patel said softly, shining a small light into his eyes. If you can hear me, squeeze your father's hand again. And he did. Stronger this time. Tears blurred my vision. I could barely see his face through the haze, but when I did, I noticed something that hadn't been there before: color. A faint, precious flush of color returning to his skin. He's responding, Dr. Patel said with a small smile. It's a very good sign. Elena placed her hand over mine, her voice trembling for the first time. "He's fighting, Mr. Collins. He's coming back." I bent over the bed, pressing my forehead to his hand. "That's it, son," I whispered. "You hang on. You fight. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere." For the next few hours, I didn't sleep. I talked to him, told him stories, memories, anything that might pull him back. I told him about the time he tried to build a go-kart out of lawnmower parts, about his mother's terrible spaghetti, about the night he stayed up helping me fix the roof during a thunderstorm. Sometimes, when I spoke, his eyelids fluttered, like some part of him was listening. At dawn, light crept slowly across the window. The storm had ended completely. The snow outside glittered gold under the first rays of morning sun. I sat there, my eyes half closed, whispering to him the same words I had once said when he was a child sick with fever. "Dad's here, son. You're safe. You just rest now. Everything's going to be all right." And for the first time in years, I believed it. Because no matter what came next, trial, recovery, justice, the worst was over. My boy was alive, and I wasn't letting go again. 3 days later, the impossible happened. Michael opened his eyes. It wasn't dramatic, no sudden gasp, no cinematic rush, just a slow flutter of his eyelids, the faintest twitch of his lips as his hand tightened around mine. His gaze drifted unfocused for a moment before settling on me, confused, tired, alive. "Dad," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Every bit of strength I had left broke apart. I gripped his hand like it was the only thing keeping me standing. "Yeah, son, it's me. You're all right now. You're safe." He looked around the room, trying to piece together where he was. "What happened? Last thing I remember, I was at work. My chest." "You collapsed," I said softly. "They brought you here. You've been unconscious for a few days." He nodded slowly, blinking as if the world still didn't quite fit. "Where's Lydia?" The question cut through me like glass. I looked down, swallowing the bitterness that rose in my throat. "She's not here right now." His brow furrowed. "Did she go home?" I didn't answer. Not yet. Not until he was stronger. Dr. Patel came in soon after, relief written all over his face. He ran a few tests, asked questions, checked Michael's memory. Everything, his reflexes, his awareness, his responses, was intact. No brain damage, no permanent harm. It was nothing short of a miracle. "You're one lucky man, Mr. Collins," Dr. Patel said. "Another 24 hours without treatment, and the outcome would have been very different." Michael smiled weakly. "Guess I've got my old man to thank for that." I smiled back, but it didn't reach my eyes. Not yet. There was still a truth he didn't know, a truth that would destroy the last 7 years of his life. Later that night, when the nurses stepped out and the hallway quieted, I pulled my chair close to his bed. The room was dim, except for the faint glow of the monitors. "Michael," I began slowly, "there's something you need to hear, but I need you to stay calm and listen all the way through." He frowned, confused but attentive. "Okay. Dad, what is it?" I took a breath that felt like swallowing glass. "Lydia wasn't taking care of you. She was poisoning you." The color drained from his face. "What?" She added warfarin. "A blood thinner to your food, your tea, your IV bag. She planned to make it look like heart failure. The police caught her before she could finish it." He stared at me, disbelief flickering in his eyes. No, Dad, that's impossible. Lydia, she loves me. She's been by my side every day." I reached into my jacket and handed him the small recorder Elena had given me earlier. "Listen." He pressed the play button. The hospital room filled with Lydia's voice, soft, cruel, deliberate. "I've been adding small doses for months. No one suspects a thing. In a few days, it'll look like natural causes." Michael's hand shook as he held the recorder. The sound of Alan Hurst's voice followed, calm, calculating, discussing property transfers, bank accounts. The phrase, "if he doesn't wake up." When it ended, silence swallowed the room. He sat completely still, eyes blank. Then he whispered, "She was going to kill me." "Yes," I said, my throat tight. "And take everything you owned. The house, the company, even my savings." He covered his face with both hands. His shoulders began to shake. For a moment I thought he was angry, but when I heard the sound quiet, broken sobs, I realized it wasn't anger. It was grief. "I loved her, Dad," he said between tears. "God help me. I loved her. I thought she was everything. I thought—" He stopped, unable to finish. I reached for his hand again. "She fooled you. She fooled everyone. People like her, they're good at pretending." He looked up at me then, his eyes raw. "Did you know? Did you suspect?" "I didn't," I admitted, shame creeping into my voice. "Not until that night. The nurse Elena stopped me before I went into your room. She recorded their conversation. Without her, you'd be gone." He nodded slowly, absorbing it all, the weight of 7 years collapsing around him. "Where is she now?" "In custody. Her real name's Karen Miller. The police found she's done this before. 3 men in different states. All wealthy. All nearly dead by the time anyone realized what she was." Michael looked out the window, the faint light from the city reflecting off his tears. "And I brought her into our lives," he whispered. "You warned me once. You said she was too good to be true. I told you to stop interfering. I pushed you away." I squeezed his hand. "None of that matters now. You're here. That's what counts." He turned back to me, his voice breaking. "You should hate me." "I don't," I said simply. "A father doesn't stop loving his son because he got fooled. He just thanks God he got a second chance." He cried harder after that, and I let him. There were no right words. Only time, and time, for once, was on our side. 2 months later, the trial began. The courtroom in Bismarck was packed. Journalists, onlookers, even a few of Lydia's former acquaintances filled the benches. She looked different without her polished hair and designer clothes, smaller, paler, her arrogance stripped away. Michael sat beside me, his face steady but cold. He hadn't said a word to her since the arrest. Elena testified first, calm, professional, unshakable. She described the symptoms, her suspicions, the secret recording, and how she'd risked her job to stop another tragedy. Dr. Patel followed, presenting the toxicology results, precise measurements of poison in Michael's system. Each chart, each number, drove the nail deeper. Then came Detective Grant, detailing the recordings, the forged documents, and the confessions Alan Hurst gave in exchange for a reduced sentence. Finally, they called me. I stood before the court, my hands trembling slightly, and told them what I'd heard in that hallway, every word, every sickening laugh, every plan for my son's death. Lydia wouldn't look at me at first, but when I said she called me the old man, said I was nothing, she turned and her glare was pure venom. When I finished, the courtroom was silent. The prosecutor asked if I had anything else to add. "Yes," I said, my voice steady. "No one can measure the strength of a parent's love until it's tested by hell. But I'll tell you this, evil doesn't win when love refuses to give up." A murmur rippled through the room. Michael testified last. He spoke slowly, deliberately, about the lies, the isolation, the control Lydia had wrapped around him like a web. "She told me my father didn't respect her," he said, "that he was jealous, meddling, a burden, and I believed her. She nearly killed me with the same poison she used to turn me against him." When he finished, Lydia looked at him, her eyes glassy, unreadable. "I did love you," she said suddenly, breaking her silence for the first time, "in my own way." Michael didn't flinch. "If that's love," he said quietly, "then thank God I survived it." The verdict came after only 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Attempted murder, fraud, falsification of documents. Lydia, or Karen Miller, was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison. No parole for 20. As the bailiffs led her away, she turned back toward me, her voice barely more than a hiss. "You think this makes you a hero? He'll still suffer without me." I met her eyes one last time. "He'll heal, without you." And that was the last thing I ever said to her. Outside the courthouse, snow began to fall again. Soft, quiet, clean. Michael and I stood there for a long time, not saying much. Then he turned to me and said, "You saved my life, Dad." I shook my head. "No, son. You fought for it. I just stood guard." 6 months passed. The snow had melted. giving way to a North Dakota spring, wide open skies, muddy fields, and the kind of silence that only comes after a storm. Michael and I moved back into the old house I'd built with my own hands 30 years ago. The same porch where he'd once stood, waving his little arms when I came home from work. Now he sat beside me, a mug of coffee in his hands, the color back in his face, the quiet strength back in his eyes. It took time for him to heal not just his body, but the part of him that had been broken in ways no medicine could fix. There were nights when I heard him pacing in his room, haunted by the sound of her voice, by the memories of what she'd done. But every morning, he still got up. He still fought to rebuild. One morning, as we sat watching the sunrise turn the fields gold, he said, "You ever think people like her are born that way? Or they just lose something inside?" I looked at him carefully. "Does it matter?" He thought for a moment, then shook his head. "Maybe not. Maybe the only thing that matters is making sure they never hurt anyone again." He'd been going to therapy, working with a trauma counselor. He even volunteered at the local community center, helping victims of financial scams and abuse. Elena came by once a week, not as a nurse anymore, but as a friend. She'd helped him find purpose again. And, truth be told, she'd helped me too. One evening, we were sitting around the table with her, eating stew and laughing about something small, when she suddenly said, "You know, you both could do something bigger with what happened. Start something that helps others. You've lived through what so many don't survive." Michael's eyes met mine. For a long moment, neither of us said anything, but we both knew she was right. That summer, we founded the Vigil Foundation. Named for what we'd done, kept vigil through the night for the truth, for life, for justice. It started small, just a few volunteers, a donated office space downtown, and one phone line. But word spread fast. We offered free legal advice for people trapped in financial or emotional manipulation. We partnered with hospitals to train staff to recognize signs of poisoning or domestic abuse. Elena led those sessions, her calm, fierce voice turning every nurse into a quiet guardian. In the first year alone, we helped 18 families. Some were cases like ours, silent victims, too afraid or ashamed to speak. Others were people who just needed someone to believe them. Each time I met one of them, I thought of that night in the hospital, the hallway lights flickering, the whisper in my ear, "Hide and wait." And I realized that sometimes survival starts with silence, but healing starts with being heard. Michael thrived. He reopened his small construction firm, but now worked half-time at the foundation too. People trusted him. They saw not just a survivor, but a man who'd looked evil in the eye and chosen compassion instead of bitterness. And me? I found peace in something I hadn't known for years, purpose. I gave speeches at hospitals, police seminars, and community centers. I told my story, not for pity, but for warning. I told them what I'd learned the hard way, that evil rarely looks like evil. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it says, "I love you." Sometimes it brings you coffee. One evening, as the sun dipped below the endless plains, Michael came to sit beside me again on the porch. He handed me a framed photo, the three of us, him, me, and Elena, standing in front of the foundation's sign. "You ever think we'd get here, Dad?" he asked quietly. I smiled, looking out at the horizon. I hoped, but I never dared to dream this far. He leaned back, his expression thoughtful. "You know what's strange? I don't hate her anymore. I just feel sorry for her." "That's how you know you've healed," I said, "when you can pity the devil without letting him in again." He laughed softly, shaking his head. "You always know how to make things sound simple." "It's not simple," I replied. "It's just life. We fall, we bleed, we learn. But the real victory isn't surviving, it's what we do after." The wind rustled the prairie grass. The stars began to appear, one by one, across the darkening sky. I thought about everything that had happened, the lies, the fear, the hospital walls that had nearly become my son's tomb. And yet, somehow, that night had given birth to something greater. I turned to him and said quietly, "You know, son, I used to think strength meant never breaking. But I was wrong. Strength means breaking, and choosing to rebuild anyway." He smiled. "Then we're stronger than ever." We sat there in silence. Two survivors, Two men who'd found their way back from the edge, not through revenge, but through truth. And for the first time in years, as the wind carried the scent of rain and the night wrapped gently around us, I felt something I thought I'd lost forever. Peace. Because I'd learned the greatest lesson a father can ever learn. That love, when it refuses to die, becomes the most powerful form of justice.